We have covered race after race in the TSRC, and each has brought something to the table. Tonight, two rivals go into this round tied in the overall stats. Oh, my script has gone. I've ruined this intro. Standing at a circuit where the panorama extends from not only the view, but to the view of the action on the track as well. My name is Kelsey Gill, and alongside me is Zach Sweeney. We bring you the TSRC GT3 PC Series, season number 7, round 5, with Kieran Sharp on the cameras as well. And we've got a great track for some awesome action tonight, Zach.
Yeah, we do. Bathurst, of course, the infamous circuit, of course, the venue here in Australia. Mount Panorama, of course, usually is actually public road, but of course, around this time of year, gets transformed into the amazing roller coaster of adventure that we absolutely know and love. Of course, it's Bathurst 12-hour season. You might be seeing the iRacing special event over the course of the weekend. The real life one was a bit of last week or so. And yeah, we get to take you to it for round number 5 of this beautiful season 7 of the PC GT3 series. I love it. It's tough, it's tricky, and yeah, expect some deaths.
Yeah, it's a hell of a circuit. It's absolutely fantastic to drive around. The walls are ever present. It is just a thrill ride from start to finish, really, and a great place for these drivers to test their mettle out on the penultimate round of the championship. And this track is fantastic. 6.213 kilometers long, up through the mountains here in New South Wales, Australia. And you can see from this onboard shot already just how little margin there is for error as Damien Konchik climbs the hill for the first time in qualifying.
Yeah, you're on your way through this right straight into this left. You've got to be so careful not to completely obliterate that wall on the left-hand side. Then you run your way into this left, then up over the crest, dip back down again. The car's all loaded up through, I believe, McPhillamy, then into Skyline. This quick little kink to the right, then you're downhill braking while you're chucking the car through the S's. And then, of course, you run your way through into the dipper, and then narrowly avoid of course, the wall on the right-hand side. Basically, the entire track is about trying to avoid walls at this point. Into Forest Elbow, you've got to be so late on the brakes, but also maximise your exit. It's such a difficult circuit, and one that really does separate the good from the great.
Yeah, you kind of have to, you know, these longer sections, these big long straights here that you go before, as you sort of round off the lap, they give you that little bit of breathing space as you sort of round things off, but you're fully intense, you're fully focused going through that walled section up and then straight back down the hill. It's such an intense drive. I mean, how did the drivers, Zach, just manage to stay focused in on that?
Because they're forced to. There's no other way that you can get around this circuit apart from being 110% focused all of the way around. I mean, of course, it's a great testament to all of their skill. 2:08. What a lap time! Straight out of the bag, obviously, for Damien Konchik. That is remarkable. But yeah, it's almost like a rally stage of sorts. You know, anyone that's played Dirt Rally 2 or the WRC game or just seeing clips, you know how tough it is. You know, you go into each corner, you know, quite unsuspecting. Everything's coming at you so quick. That's essentially what Bathurst is. You just have to treat each corner with such caution and such respect. And that's the thing around Bathurst, is really not underestimating it, not getting cocky, not getting arrogant, not overselling yourself, because this circuit, more than any other, will bite back.
Yes, it will. We mentioned there's little margin for error, and you know these qualifying laps will be very important. There is Dominic Aligna in that Audi there as we go. And let's take a quick overlook at the standings then as we go through. We'll start with the pros then. Damien Konchik is 2 points ahead of his rival in these standings. I'll get to the more interesting bits toward the end. And Dominic Aligna, of course, on that 85 points, just behind Konchik, who's on 87. Then Hislop's a little bit further back on 68. So I think he's more or less out of this, unless a DNF were to come I suppose, for Damian Konchik and Dominic Ligner. Then he'd shoot straight back up into the standings there. We'll move straight on to the silvers then. That is your pro-ams, if you'd like to call them that. James Wright is 9 points ahead of Sasha Paul, the German driver. Then there is Urason on 63. 3 points behind is Mikhail Glanovsky, and then Elias Troy on 51, tied with Jakub Gramowski. There, the other Polish driver, Ryan Blanchet on 46. A point behind is Luca Wire, and then on 41 points is Marcel Hess. Alex Nieto on 38, 37 for Mav Gardner. Andrea Almonte on 36 points, with Joel Bandera on 35 there down the bottom. So relatively spread out standings for the silvers. And then we'll move swiftly on to the AMs, as Patrizio Gumeo is 86 points, and he is 6 points ahead of Giuseppe Zampieri, and then way back on 57 points is Marcus Miller. Then there's Morris Kuzemianov on 56 points, just a point behind, and then 38 points is Paolo Cisco. Then there's Samuel Parry on 30, 21 points from Leonardo Cayala, and Antonio Presici on 19 points. There's a lot of drivers who haven't made every round or haven't bothered to turn up for any of the rounds for whatever reason they have. But the more interesting fact is, Zach, that right now in the overall standings are two championship titans, you could say, in the pros. Dominic Littner and Damian Konchik are tied on 176 points each.
It's mega, and obviously not helped by Konchik's not great round at Silverstone, of course. Didn't really have the best of times, unfortunately for him. But what happened was, of course, a very, very tight... Well, what happened because of it is a very, very tight championship in the overall. Of course, that's mainly the focus point, I suppose, for the Pro Championship, because it factors in more than just the three drivers that are part of the pros, you know, Konchik, Ligner, Hislop. Because even on their worst day, the worst they can score is a third, which isn't overly representative of the championship. So I think, obviously, for Konchik and Ligner, their aim is going to be more for the overall championship as opposed to their individual one for the classes. However, obviously in the silvers, with James Wright doing such a good job, Sasha Paul not a million miles behind, and obviously being the biggest class, again, more is open to that point. There are, you know, a bigger swing, a bigger range in how many points can be scored if and when you have a bad round as such. So James Wright leading the way by 9 points, mightily impressive. But all in all, I think this season has boasted some really close competition, and already we're on the penultimate round.
Yes, and it's been quite a season as well. I think, you know, we've had quite probably one of the smallest grids we've had over at least my time in the TSRC overall, especially for that pro contingent toward the top there, which, I mean, it hasn't been, I wouldn't say it's been boring by any stretch of it, because we've had some great moments of racing, but I suppose it hasn't been as exciting as it has been in previous seasons, Zach, and you could probably speak a bit better on that, since you've been there since the very beginning.
Whoa. Don't you start been here since you've been here since season 3, mate.
Season 3, but you've been there since season 1 and 2, so I've missed a whole 12
I
races.
own the fact I don't know anything. Right?
Oh dear.
I own that. I wear it with a badge of honor. Probably shouldn't. And I don't know why I've been kept for this amount of time. Probably scared of trying to find someone new. It's like when you're completely miserable at a job, but you can't leave because you can't find a new one. That's probably why I'm still here. But just I mean, when it comes to championships themselves, when it comes to sheer competition, and last season was a write-off because Bailey Thompson just ran away with things. Season before that was a Ligner's championship, and he didn't necessarily run away with it, but it wasn't overly close going to the final round. I think this season, actually, when it comes to an overall championship, obviously tied on points in the penultimate round, Konchik versus a Ligner, I think that is a mighty showdown. Probably the best championship battle that we've had for a good few seasons.
Yeah, I'd certainly say. I mean, I guess I just mean in the general sense that we haven't had like too many outside challenges to the top two there. You know, Hislop's been around, but I think Konchik and Ligner, they've just had the measure on him there, and I suppose we haven't seen the the broadness of talent that we have seen over the last few seasons. Yes, Eligner and Thompson dominated their respective seasons, but there was other factors at play as well. There was other parts of the championship to keep your eyes on, especially toward that pro end, which we do naturally kind of focus on a little bit more because that's the front action, but we try to, Kieran tries to spread out the action as best he can for us and you guys watching wherever you may be watching, whether that's on the TSRC or on the JP broadcast channel. And good day, Phil, across the pond. I have spotted you. Good evening. Yeah, it's just we've missed a lot of usual faces. We haven't bullied Jack Southfield once this season. We haven't seen Samuel Chumley on track at all this season either in his orange McLaren. Where's Maurice Stryker in that lovely striking livery? There's been a lot of drivers who haven't been here, and hopefully they can return in the future. But I suppose one can't be ungrateful in the drivers that we do have, and we have had a great championship this season.
We have also no Slav Volodya in the beautiful tiger livery. Have missed that, by the way. It is in the thumbnail of every broadcast, so at least we've seen it. He's been here in spirit. But yeah, have missed the Estonian. I think maybe we've bullied them out. They've just gotten fed up of putting up with our voices, so they're like, no, I'm just going to leave. Why would I be here if we're just going to get bullied by the broadcast? Maybe it's a sign that we should be a bit nicer to them.
I'm not sure that's going to happen.
I don't think so either.
Especially with Andrew Pike and Handsome Stew around.
Not while I'm still breathing. No drivers getting away with it at all.
Oh dear. We should probably focus on qualifying, Zach. We've nattered on enough. Let's take a look, see what the timings are. Damien Konchik, 1 minute 59.9. That's a great lap to go to the sub 2 minutes around this fantastic circuit. There's James Wright tucking into the slipstream with the Mercedes behind him. What's he got behind the wheel of his McLaren as he makes his way around the final few corners? We'll see what he can do as he goes through. And then Eligner's 2 tenths behind Konchik there as well. Then almost a second behind is Josh Hislop in the BMW. One more corner for Mr. Wright to navigate. Let's see what he can do. The Mercedes peels out of the way, taps the wall for good measure as well. Just improves his lap time a little bit. 1.3 away from the man on pole position. Just opens up that gap between himself and Ryan Blanchette. Here is Jeremy Urison, the Belgian driver in the BMW. What has he got to offer?
That's a weird looking Belgian flag.
Is it Belgian?
That's green yellow, isn't it not? That's,
not on the car.
Is that not Senegal, the way it comes up on the... Oh no, that's black. Goodness me. Wow. Wow, I'm colourblind.
And black's not even a colour.
Oh, goodness me. No.
Oh, it's black.
You can't tell me that doesn't look green. Come
It does not look green by any shape or form.
No.
Oh, God.
I'm so sorry. This whole time I thought he was from Senegal or something. That's green, yellow, red, isn't it not?
Right, Zach, this one's Italy. It's green and it's white and it's red. Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's not patronise. Let's not patronise me. I would just like
it's
to.
It's not blue. It's not France.
Right. So for those outside the UK, we have GCSEs, which are the exams you take when you're 16. Right. I wrote half of them in a green pen purely because I thought that it was black. So yeah, ever since that's just been the running theme. And you know how people often commentate on cars? Oh, the blue car goes down the inside. I can't do that because I can't call it with enough certainty to run with it. So I've just been stuck in a bit of limbo. And there's Dominic Eligner with the German flag. Yeah, okay. You know what? I've had enough of this championship. No, it's fine. It's been nice, guys. 7 seasons. It's been great. But nice. Yeah, right. Anyway, moving on.
Yes, moving on. We're in the dying stages of qualifying. These are likely the last laps we will see in this qualifying session. And Dominic Eligner looks like he's absolutely throwing that Audi around the corners here at this Mount Panorama circuit. And here he comes, descending the mountain he goes, avoiding the walls, getting as close as he can, trying to maximize what little track space there is in that 716 machine. He's unleashed from the walls now, and it's a long straight down to turn number 20 for the German. What has he got in the tank? Damian Konchik, meanwhile, is just ahead of him, I think, or is he coming through the first portion of the circuit? No, he is coming to the final corner. What has he got then? Checkered flag is waved and he's into the pit lane. Nothing left for the pole. What can Dominic Aligna do in his Audi? He's only got a few more corners to navigate. Now, one more corner, in fact, as he comes to the last corner, turn number 23. What has he got in him? Is it enough to snatch away pole? Conchik's opened it up, but Aligna goes even quicker by 0.02 of a second.
Yeah, not a lot near whatsoever. What a lap time from Dominic Aligna. A 1:59.7. He's incredibly quick. Obviously, Konchik not a million miles behind either. It's such a long and technical lap. That is nothing that separates them. Last row through, there's the Mercedes of Luca Ryan at the moment, 14th overall, but of course, I believe 9th in class. That's the end of qualifying. 15 minutes. We get going for 40 minutes of racing soon.
Wow, what a qualifying that was between Aligna and Konchik. And we take a little look down, and there's some close lap times between some of the other drivers as well. But it's Dominic Aligna on pole position. Damian Konchik will line up alongside him with Josh Hislop, the only other pro on the grid, in P3, with Urison lining up alongside him on the second row. Then there's James Wright in 5. Then there's Glanovsky in 6. Then there's Ryan Blanchett and Paul rounding on 7 and 8. Elias Troyer and Bandera round off the top 10, with Luca Raya, Giuseppe Zampieri, Almonte Gramovsky, Gameo, Nieto, and Cisco rounding off the rest of the grid. It's going to be very exciting. If this qualifying session is anything to go by, Aligna and Konchik should hopefully be very close to one another throughout this race, and it could be quite the battle around Mount Panorama.
It will be, and I cannot wait to see each and every single lap worth of racing action. Of course, it's bone dry. Of course, it was a 60% chance of clear skies coming into this, and thankfully the weather gods have been on our side with that one, because a wet Bathurst is not really one that these drivers would like to indulge in, I'm sure. So yeah, all in all, it should be hopefully a clean race. Expect carnage, expect chaos, and also expect, you know, I'm going to say it now, expect a lack of overtaking, because Bathurst is difficult to get moves done. I'd say we're probably going to see more of the moves done, obviously, in the pit lane. Doesn't mean we're going to take anything away from the spectacle, because a win at Bathurst is probably the most valuable win of all 6 rounds.
Yeah, certainly. And I'd expect most of that overtaking to come down into that run into turn 2, into the run through perhaps turns 20, 21, 22 there, into the last corner and first corner perhaps as well. But other than that, I wouldn't expect any overtaking from in between turns 3 and turns 18 there, as it's just, there's walls, there's twists and turns. I mean, turns 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all zigzagging down the mountain as you finish cresting it towards turn 10 there. It's going to be tough for the drivers to go side by side. It's going to be difficult as well. Mav Gardner having you back there, Zach. He says he gets black and navy mixed up. That's certainly something. I mean, it happens to the best of us, but it's funny when it does. You've got to laugh about these things.
But I don't know whether or not to laugh or cry, I've got to be honest. I mean, see, but navy blue and black is fine. Explicitly saying, or initially trying to take the mick out of you for it. That's how confident I was. Right? That's the confidence. That is how high and mighty I felt that I could go on that and call you out for it. But no, I was wrong, and I just confused that a dark grey with a green. How have I done that?
I mean, in somewhat your defence, you know, be it playing all the sides, as I tend to do when I'm in the commentary box, it is a bit more of a grey than it is a black, just with the shading on the flags there. But
I did think Urison was a very not Senegalese name. But then again, Belgian, French, Senegal, they speak French. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, it's happened. We're on the formation lap anyway. We've got the German, the Pole, and the Brit, and then obviously the Belgian of Eurison running off the top 4. And we're hopefully going to have a lot of fun and no more mess ups, right?
Well, we'll
We
see.
get
We've
one
got
strike
40
each.
minutes. 40 minutes. I mean, I had my strike right at the very beginning. So there was that. But other news, Eurison got himself ahead of James White during the qualifying there as well. He's going to start on pole for the silvers. Glanovski's going to get in the way of himself and James White there as well. Ryan Blanchett down in 4th. He perhaps would have thought he could do better. Elias Troyer got some ground to make up in P6 there as well. The 3 AMs that are on the grid, Giuseppe Zampieri, Gameo and Cisco there, all separated by some AMs, 2 between Zampieri and Gameo and 1 between Cisco and Gameo there as well. So they'll be fighting in their respective ways. And Zach, we're at Mount Bathurst, a very challenging circuit, a circuit that demands a lot of concentration from a driver. And, you know, we've gone through qualifying and, you know, driving around on your own with drivers not getting in the way is one thing. But now we're driving with drivers with the intent to overtake, with the intent to try and make up positions and perhaps cause some side-by-side action. And we've raced here at the TSRC a good few times, but how do the drivers get themselves honed in for a race here, and how are they going to try and avoid these potential dramas with the walls being so close?
Hope, pray, and everything else in between, really. Just whatever god or gods you believe in, and if you're an atheist, then obviously pray to Einstein that you make it through cleanly. That's really all you can do here at Bathurst. But in all seriousness, you just have to treat it as any other race start. I mean, you can't overthink it, because the moment you overthink, the moment you doubt, the moment you lose confidence is the moment that you make mistakes. You know, you manifest it, you tell yourself you're going to fail, and you're going to fail. Whereas if you just go into it with as clear a mind as possible, then you should be able to at least have a better chance of coming out, obviously, with a front end and still with a chance in the race intact. Obviously, Kieran Sharp giving them the best advice in sort of, you know, just don't suck. It's fair, you know, don't do that either, because obviously that is suboptimal. But yeah, you just got to get yourself into a clear set of mind. You just got to focus in and treat it as any other race start. Warm the tyres, warm the brakes, get everything tuned in, and get yourself ready to go. It's Bathurst, sure, but it's a racetrack like no other.
Yes, indeed. And these drivers will find ways to navigate. They'll find ways to go side by side if it's there. I have always been a firm believer that any circuit you can go side by side, and as long as you are not an idiot. And there are some idiots out there in the world of motorsport, but not these 17 drivers as they are lining up side by side as they come round to this final corner of the circuit, getting ready to go. It's Dominic Ligner and Damien Konchik, the sight we've seen for the last 4 races, and another sight we're going to see. We are waiting for the green flag as the line is just approaching, and we are almost underway for the race. When are we going to go? When are they going to drop it? It's now. The green flag is waved, and we are underway. Elias Troy is looking for a way through. Meanwhile, Dominic Ligner covering off his rival, leaving him behind him as they exit the first corner and claiming the lead for himself. There's a bit of a scrap going on further back. I think Elias Troy is getting swallowed up by the cars behind him. All in all, clean start, but here comes Damien Konchik as well. He's chasing as they go through. This is Grimovsky in that sky liveried car, and the 2 leaders side by side. They go through the second corner now. Ligner with that inside line just holds off Damien Konchik in the Ferrari. Heavy over the curb though for the Audi car as they start to climb the hill, but it's Ligner leading the way from Konchik and Hislop.
Really good start, of course, for Ligner, just to maintain. That's obviously that pole from the start. It gives him a huge stepping stone going forward. What has happened going through here? That is not the place you really want to be going for moves. Patricio Gameo able to continue on. Zampieri, I think, momentarily involved. He picks his way past into 13th. What happened going into that double left-hander? Jakub Grimovsky still stuck there, which is obviously really not fun for him going into the cutting. Let's take a look. He just goes in. He's actually getting tagged by the Porsche, and then obviously it's a car park, and 3 cars all went into the side of him at the same time. That is rough.
Yeah, I think they're just... It looked like perhaps Gromowski didn't see Elias Troy there on his inside and perhaps tagged him as they went through, and that was it. It really caused a big incident there, and well, you saw Gromowski's car clipping through the other cars as they tried to navigate it. It was a very strange view, something you definitely wouldn't see in real life, just because that's not how physics works. Although I did see something very similar in a F1 race a couple of weeks ago, where one car literally climbed over the other one due to a bit of a lag issue there, which was probably the funniest moment I've seen in the comms box for one of these commentary streams.
Well, that's always fun. Physics aren't a thing really when it comes to sim racing. I've seen cars stop at a barrier and then spontaneously flip on their head. That was a fun broadcast. I think it was a Shane Van Gisbergen car. He wasn't driving at the time. It was one of his teammates. Maybe it was Nick Foster at the wheel or someone. It was definitely in his championship, and that's what happened. Obviously, not great. There is Elias Troy on the inside. Luca Rye. This is the fight, of course, for 6th or 7th, 16th class between these guys. Elias Troy through into 9th place overall, ahead of the Mercedes, going into the cutting, looking very, very well poised indeed. However, not necessarily where the two of them would necessarily want to be. I mean, you got Urison leading the way, James Wright just in behind him, obviously trying to maintain a gap in the Silver Championship. Then, of course, you've got Sasha Pyle down in 4th overall. Needs to get after James Wright to have any chance of the championship going into the final round in a week's time.
Yeah, he does. He's got to put his foot down now and just get his head down, try and get through. A little tap on the wall from Joel Bandera sends him spinning. Car number 7. The other's lucky to avoid. They've just got enough room on the inside. There, is he going to rejoin safely? He is. Just gets that car off the racing line and safely back on. He's going to be way down in P14 now, and he's going to have some work to do. And another casualty of Mount Bathurst here. The Bathurst circuit here as we continue on. Let's see, James Wright in this battle for the lead for the Silvers here. He's 8 tenths behind Urison, who managed to jump him during qualifying. He's going to be all over the back of him in that McLaren for sure. The McLaren, of course, the popular choice among many of the drivers for the car they use this season. But we've got a decent fight on our hands here, Zach. We've got about 4 cars, all within about a second of one another.
Yeah, all very close, but none of them really able to do much with it. Again, limited overtaking opportunities here at Bathurst, and any that you do go for, you carry a tremendous amount of risk going for them. So you have got to be really careful if/when you go for that move, but at the same time, you can't exactly dilly-dally around someone waiting for a perfect opportunity, because there might never be one, and sometimes you do have to force your hand yourself. Fortunately, these guys at the front are already at the front. You know, they're there, they can maintain it, they can sort of chill, they've got time. The likes of Sasha Pyle and Blanchet and Elias Troy, who need to work their way to the front, have to be a little bit more hasty. These three, though, 1, 2, 3, in a train, they can bide their time because they've got 35 minutes purely to focus on this battle alone in isolation. Whereas Pyle, Blanchet, etc., they have to spend a percentage of that actually getting to be a part of that fight full stop.
Yeah, and they've got to pick their moments too in this fight, especially as they climb up and then straight back down the hill. They've got to be careful, and I think James Wright might be just a little bit concerned about Glanovsky just behind him. He's getting close. Here's the 53 McLaren looking all over the back of James Wright's car through there as well. You can see he's just getting right nicely settled into the bumper of James Wright's car, and he might be thinking about a move here. Any fighting, though, is going to invite the drivers behind them into this chaos. And one driver I'm keeping an eye on in this race is Elias Troy. We know he is quick. We know he's definitely got it in him on a day, but he has made a few mistakes of late over the last few seasons that we've seen, and that have perhaps cost him a lot of positions, a lot of points as well. As Glanovsky looking around the outside of car number 11, not able to find a way past. And I think what he's got to do here, Zach, is he's got to be patient as that gap has dropped dramatically. Or is that the gap to leader? That might be the gap to leader that's appearing on the screen. No, it's just the timing tower updating in its strange fashion. But Elias Troy, he's got some work to do, I suppose, and he's got to try and climb up quickly if he wants to fight in this top 3.
Definitely does. In the Porsche, to be fair, you'd think is actually a fairly decent choice for Bathurst. Obviously, the front-mounted flat six, obviously low center of gravity, front-weighted car, so definitely well poised in terms of the front end. But also, a lot of downhill sections where that front end is dragged to the bottom. Not a lot of weight on the back to keep it stable. So maybe that Porsche is a little bit of a handful, whereas the McLaren maybe longer wheelbase, a little bit more planted, definitely has its arguments, but the McLaren definitely seems to be the favourite, although it is an Audi, a Ferrari and a BMW inside the top three, so all of them running very, very well. At the moment, Ligner, though, in his trusty Audi R8 livery that he's been running ever since his debut, I believe, as they approach on to, I think that might be Nieto, they're lapping. Of course, in that Porsche, it might be Shoki Mayer, I think it might be actually the driver in P12. Anyway, Ligner versus Konchik. Konchik with the fastest lap and in the slipstream. But good news for them is they're isolating themselves from the rest of the pack. 4 seconds clear of Josh Hislop.
Yeah, they've got the whole racetrack to themselves to fight this out all race long, and we'll see what happens when that pit stop window opens in just a couple of minutes' time as we go through. I mean, what are they going to do through here? It's a very long lap, a relatively long pit lane, I suppose. You do cut out sort of 2 corners, but you sort of put those 2 corners a bit further inwards with the pit lane around here, and it looks very fiddly on the entrance there as well, so that might slow them down as they're going through. Here's Urissen, leader of the Silvers at this present moment on the track, and in that nice sort of dinosaur-esque livery as we've got going on there. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And the last laps between Ligner and Konchik, there was only about 0.02 of a second in it between the pair of them. They're both very quick around this track, obviously, and I'd imagine they'll be trading fastest laps all throughout this race. And it's gonna get perhaps a little bit dicey a little later on in the race between the two of them, but right now it's all calm on the Western Front.
It is. That's not the first. The film's all quiet on the Western Front, which is, by the way, a brilliant movie. But yeah, all calm, and then obviously you'll hear the whistles blow, and then people climbing over and running at each other. That's of course what we're going to see between Damien Konchik and Dominic Ligner. They run their way up through the hill. Of course, this is Jeremy Urissen, the driver, of course, the Raptor Virtual Racing, and with, of course, as we said, the very fitting livery to go with it. Through the left-hander here for me, through and then in towards Skyline. James Wright versus Glanovsky. That's also a 3-way fight for the silver lead, which is obviously looking very, very good. But qualifying so important here because the track position already proving to be such a formidable tool to have in your arsenal.
Yes, it is. With that inability to make those side-by-side moves, make those passes, it just makes it all that harder. And you can see in this fight here, Urissen, Wright, Glanovsky, not really the ability to go through. And even this section of the circuit here, this long straight all the way down to where it gets a little bit twistier into turns 20, 21 and 22 as we go through. It's rather narrow, in fact, a lot of the track, and as long as you plant it in the right place, plant it in the centre of the circuit, you're going to make it harder. They might have to dip a wheel. The grass as Konchik's getting ever closer to Ligner in the front there. Perhaps a pass is on the cards for him. A pass might be on the class of Glanovsky if he can get a decent exit. He's tucking in straight behind his rival ahead of him. Is he going to make a move to the inside? Not quite. Maybe he can get a better run through this corner as they head down towards turn number 2 now, and there's no way through. Meanwhile, Ligner, Konchik still inseparable, still very close, and you can see the differences in line there. It looks like Ligner opting to really mount that curb and get 2 wheels over the raised side of the curb, whereas Konchik just nicely sort of clips and rides it just that little bit, but not getting those 2 wheels right over, not putting the center of the car on top of the curb.
Yeah, of course, and showcasing the different drive styles between the two, and yet showing that 2 different methods can get to, of course, the same right answer, that is being incredibly quick. Also, with them being in 2 separate cars as well, they might demand different lines, and they're very small things. Again, to the naked eye, there's not too much that you can tell apart, but when you pick it up in the telemetry, and also sort of with that racing driver mind, you can see one driver poising the car in a little bit differently, dragging the brakes in a bit more, putting the car in a little bit later relative to the car in front. And that's the thing, there's a difference between a racing line and a racing line, if you get what I mean. Obviously, there's driving line, there's the line you use to go quick, and then there's the line that you drive to overtake, to race someone as such. And they can be two different things. As well, Conchik getting very eager on the brakes going into, of course, the chase.
Yeah, of course, and it's interesting. I mean, with a circuit like this as well, those two lines, that they tend to sort of merge together in some instances. But you've got to get creative, I think, with circuits like this. So you've got to be a bit more perceptive of your rivals, be patient, and play those mind games, and look for those mistakes. And you know, as you were speaking just now, Zach, I just thought how mesmerizing it is to watch the two of them just throw their cars down that hill, through all of those corners, left, right, left. You know, it's all absolutely fantastic to see. And you know, didn't even look like an ounce of hesitation from either of them.
Yeah, and that's the thing that you got to have, is just a confidence in yourself. Here's James Wright versus Glanovsky. You can see not quite close enough is the well, I was going to say the McLaren, the second McLaren, the chase McLaren of Glanovsky, who's unable to find a way through for now. And again, still showcasing how invaluable being able to get that good qualifying was. Such a tricky circuit. Right now, you can argue Glanovsky is quicker than James Wright, but he's behind him, which means that obviously he's not having a better race. So obviously James Wright doing enough to stay ahead, but Glanovsky, I'm sure, going to be maybe feeling a little bit frustrated that he can't find a way past.
He does seem more put together in his car than James Wright does. You could see as we were following along that rear view chase cam that you know, on the exit of a few of those corners, Glanovsky was just getting that little bit closer to the wall than Wright was, and that shows a little bit more confidence perhaps in the ability to position the car around such a tight circuit through here as well. And one thing the fighting between these is gonna do, I mean, first of all, James Wright seems to be losing a little bit of time to Urison, although that has since changed. That did not age well, that comment, as he gains 5 tenths on him once again and actually opens up the gap to Glanovsky. So James Wright putting his foot down. I think he heard me, Zach, in all honesty, saying that Glanovsky was faster than him behind, and he's put his foot down, or perhaps Urison just made a mistake, but he's peeled into the pit lane nonetheless, and is going to be one of the first drivers to pull the trigger. Of course, Gamayo and Bandera have already made their stops, but the leader of the Silvers into the pits.
He is, and making a very early call, very bold of him to do, of course, with still 15 minutes left of the pit window. But if you can get yourself out in some clear air, no reason why not. Get it over and done with before you get put under pressure by those around you. Dominic Aligna still out there with Damien Konchik, and I would imagine the Ferrari is going to be doing something a little bit different here, because, you know, at worst, he stays second. At best, he gets the undercut.
Yeah, indeed. It's gonna be interesting what the two of them do. I mean, maybe they feel they're going to try and opposite one another. Perhaps Aligna will opt to go first. I mean, and then do they opt to get tyres as well? The advantage, I don't know if it's that much worth it, in all honesty. If you do get the tyres or not with that added time that you put on the stop as well. And it's interesting. And then there's the fuel levels to consider as well, what they're running in those cars as they're going through. And they just look very inseparable, these two. And if one was to get an undercut and get that clear air, then it might come in. I mean, Konchik may well be faster than Aligna, but just can't get past him through those twistier sections. You know, he might have a bit more in him, and if he's unleashed, he might be able to either attack once he's out of the pits on an undercut, or, you know, be freed so that when he does come in for his stop, he comes out ahead of Aligna if he tries an overcut.
So many different things that can be sort of taken into account, but you have to remember it's a long lap here at Bathurst, which doesn't give you a lot of wiggle room in the strategy, because obviously you leave it late and you run the risk of completely missing your window entirely. It's surprisingly easy to do. Of course, with Bathurst, actually, we touched on it earlier. There's quite a lot of skill as well when it comes to the pit lane. That chicane going in, of course, getting it stopped, stopping in your pit box, coming out, disengaging the pit limit. I mean, I had a race at Road America literally 3 weeks ago where we had 3 different teams get drive-throughs for disengaging the pit limit too soon. It's such a trivial thing, but surprisingly easy to get wrong. So all of those things are going to have to be nailed. The in-lap, the pit sequence, the out-lap, all going to have to be driven to such a high standard if either of these drivers want to come out on the other side of this race leading the way.
Yeah, and with a race like this as well, it's exhausting, you know. I mean, I've heard tale that I mean, you can tell by the look of the track that taking a track walk round here is going to be quite the hike, but driving it must be a completely different matter. The levels of concentration you've got to have are unparalleled, I think, around this circuit. You know, you could, I suppose, compare this track, especially in its length, to something like Spa, but Spa's got a lot more open areas to it. It's got a lot less sort of corners that just come at you, you know. There's more time to think around this track, though. When you're going on that downhill part especially, you've got almost zero time to react. You've got to be absolutely sharp, absolutely quick, and what that does is that level of concentration, it drains a driver. It makes them make silly little mistakes like that. You know, it'll invite a lockup, or, you know, just disengaging that pit limit or that bit too soon, that braking a little bit too late into the pits and speeding in the pit lane. As Konchik is in the pits, he's going to go early. He's going to try and go under Aligna if he can. What this means now is Aligna's got to put his foot down and really start putting in the laps. He'll hope that Porsche does not get in the way as he does so. But they finally pulled the trigger here, Zach, and it's Konchik who's gone first.
He has. Obviously, Aligna now catching up a slight bit of traffic, actually. The Porsche potential... Is that Cameo again? But anyway, yeah, so maybe going to get caught up a little bit, and that could be Konchik's hope that he gets slowed down by the Porsche and then is able to, of course, eventually get the jump. We are already halfway through this race. Definitely has flown by. Aligna driving to a high level as he can. Josh Slop about 11 seconds back. That's a remarkable gap for the top two to have closed. And there you can see Aligna getting all sorts of sideways, trying to overtake the Porsche. That would have slowed him down for sure. And, well, again, all of this is going to be playing into the hands of Damien Konchik.
I was worried there. That Porsche was sort of planting himself in the middle as we go through, and I thought, do not hit him, please, Dominic. It will be an absolute travesty if he did. But thankfully just avoided him, and what a driver to have caught that. You saw that little moment of oversteer as he was trying to go dipping underneath the Porsche to get out of the way and try and just get back to hammering in those lap times. And what a level of skill this driver has in order to keep that car going and keep it in a straight line, or as straight as a line you can when you're twisting down up and down the mountain here at Mount Panorama. But it's a great driver behind the wheel that can do that through there. And about half the grid now have come in for their stops. Let's see, it looks like Aligna's in now, so he's responding immediately. Where is Konchik? Let me look at the track map as we go through. Driver 913 is just about to hit turn 18.
So into the Forest Elbow. He has still got a decent chunk of that left to go, probably a good 25 seconds, maybe more actually. So it all depends, obviously, how long Aligna's got to stay stationary, how much fuel. Of course, they have got a mandatory, I believe it's 25 seconds mandatory fueling, or just stationary time as such. Obviously, in that time they can change tyres, do whatever. Of course, the tyres will have an overlap going beyond the mandatory stationary time. Maybe Konchik opted for tyres at some point, whatever it was. Aligna, let's see what the race against time is going to be. This is an important corner for Konchik. He's going into, of course, the final one. Aligna was only now starting to move. He's got a little bit way to go before the pit limit line. There it is. Then he gets to deactivate it and put his foot to the floor. There is Konchik as well. He is going to be taking the lead.
Yeah, he's ahead. He's got that clear air, but Aligna is not far behind him either. They've come out racing, but they've switched positions, so the undercut has worked. And I think Aligna, he might be a little bit miffed about that Porsche that made him almost drop the ball on his charge, and is now going to be paying the price of that by going and sitting behind now the Ferrari rather than ahead, rather than controlling the pace. And now it's a game which has switched. Instead of Konchik sitting there getting frustrated, staring at the bumper of that Audi, it is now Dominic Aligna who is going to stare at the bumper of that Ferrari. And it's fight on between these two rivals, which this championship, Zach, is looking like it might go down all the way to that final round. Oh, big little bit of mistake from Aligna there. He rides the curb a little too much. It could have ended in tears. He's going to slow him down a little bit, thrown him offline. We'll see what the gap is when the timing tower fixes itself a little bit as we go through 3 tenths. I don't think that is the actual gap since that mistake, but that could have been bad.
Yeah, dicey moment for Dominic Aligna, and yeah, well held once again. Easy for things to go very, very wrong very, very quickly. Damien Konchik still leads then, looking very well poised, and now he's ahead. Let's see what the true pace is of this Ferrari. 17 minutes left to go. Round number 5 here at Bathurst, and yeah, definitely a fun one. Speaking of oversteer, I had my first taste of oversteer in real life today. I was test driving a BMW at work, put my foot down, forgot it was wet, forgot there were fresh tyres, and nearly went sideways. Well, no, I did go sideways, and thankfully managed to catch it. It's surprisingly easy to do, but also very scary for the first time to lose control out on the road. So, obviously, big respect to these guys, because car control is not an easy thing to get right.
No, I mean, at some points, I mean, when you've been doing it for long enough, I mean, I don't necessarily mean these drivers in particular, but you look at the top level, you know those Formula One drivers, or even down to the real life GT3 drivers and such. They've been exposed to motorsports from a very young age. We're talking like what, 5, 6, 7, that sort of age, where they've just been doing it for so long that they get into any sort of car, and I'd imagine it's just it's like putting on a nice warm pair of shoes. It's comfortable. You take a little while to maybe get used to it, perhaps, or you take a moment to get the feel for it. But it's almost it's simple after just a little moment. It's an extension of one's body after a while, and it's just all comes naturally. You're not thinking. You're just acting on instinct, and that's what they say, isn't it? If you start thinking behind the wheel of a car during a race like this, then it's all over, really. If you're thinking about the driving, you're slowing yourself down. You've got to act on instinct. You've got to go with the feel of the car.
You really do, and again, it's muscle memory, really. It's that feeling the car's giving you, and something that sim racing does really well is to give you that information through the steering wheel. People have got butt kickers and motion platforms and things to obviously assist that, and obviously something that you have more of in real life. The car naturally kind of wanting to correct itself. That feeling you get obviously in your bum, the visuals, the sounds, everything really goes into it. And there are some parallels with sim racing, and you just eventually get to a point where it's just natural. You don't even think that you're correcting the car. You just do. It just becomes second nature. Here's Paolo Cisco into the pit lane. He's the final driver to take his mandatory pit stop. Although, no offense, doesn't really matter down in P14. However, it's a podium because he's in the end.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's going to be. Well, there's it's only 3 drivers there, so it's not too much competition to be had between the 3 of them, as they're all sort of gapped out. But yeah, podium's a podium at the end of the day. So yeah, you can't really complain, really. I thought, as Aligna and Konchik open up that gap, and just to continue that point on feel and sim racing in general, it's crazy how accurate. Well, I mean, I know it's not completely accurate for some levels. I mean, depending on how good your sim is, I suppose, isn't it? If you've got one of those rigs that you've got the whole rig moves, or even if you've just got a wheel, like, or even a controller. It was absolutely surprising to me whenever I was playing the F1 games, for example, just how much you can feel even on a controller. Like, you knew when the back was going, you knew when the wheels were spinning, and you could feel all that as well. And it's crazy. It's crazy to me to think that such a small piece of hardware has such complexity and such ability to sort of immerse you in that world, in that experience, in that environment. It's madness. It's incredible, actually. It's such a testament to the sim racing technology.
Yeah, and progress that's been obviously happening for the last few years. I mean, well, I say 10, 15 years ago. 10, 15 years ago, sim racing was quite an advanced thing. More, 20 odd years ago, when the best you could get was a Wii remote, the little one you put the controller in the middle. You can still get those, but obviously it was more modern back then. You could play Mario Kart with that, and obviously now people have got full-fledged sim rigs that Formula One teams use to take accurate data to implement into their real-life machines. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to be taken from sim racing, and yeah, it's something that people can't necessarily shrug off, really. I mean, it genuinely holds value, so much so that you've got Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, and the like, really taking quite a heavy interest in the world of sim racing, being very prominent figures in it, and yeah, showcasing just how useful of a tool it can be. Well, yeah, fundamentally, it is pretend race cars, and it's pretend race cars to some. There is definitely just yeah, there's a lot to take away from it, and yeah, it's a huge industry, and one that will hopefully continue to grow as time goes on.
Yeah, and I think one thing that it does do is it's accessible, and I love things that are accessible. I mean, look, motorsport at the end of the day is not a cheap hobby, as it looks like Powell is coming under some pressure now from James Wright. He's all over the back, but no way through as they climb up the hill once more. But I've only raced in real life probably a grand total of about 4 times. 3 of those were behind the wheel of a Citroen AX that was stripped out and just had the bare sort of standard engine. As Powell makes a mistake, he's smacking the wall, he's all over the place, and that is another victim of Bathurst here, and it looks like he might come under threat now from Elias Troy, who's clawed his way back toward a podium here, and is all over the back of Paul after he's made that huge mistake, dropping himself down to P3. And here comes Troy now. He's going to draw level with the McLaren, and they're going to go side by side as they make their way down towards turn 20 and 21. It'll be the outside for this first part, but the inside for Troy, if he can hold on to it. There's still side by side as they go. The McLaren just pulling out that little bit more. Is Troy going to be able to get him under brakes? They're still side by side. A little bit of contact between the two as they emerge, and they are continuing to go. Troy is pulling out ahead now. He's got the inside for the final corner on the circuit. He's going to get ahead before the braking zone, but is Powell going to be able to go underneath him? No, he gets too much curb, unsettles the car, and it's Troy up into P3 in the Silvers.
Yeah, brilliant move. Troy showcasing some really good progress throughout the entirety of the race. Everyone's taking the mandatory pit stop. The pit window will close, of course, in about 8 seconds' time. Then we'll head into the final 10 minutes of this race. Sasha Paul, has he got any interest in launching a counter-attack? I don't quite think so. Really not close enough at all. Unfortunately, this is the closest battle on track. We've got Kronchik versus Aligna, less than a second between those two, but nothing really manifesting between the pair of them. Final 10 minutes then, and it's just about keeping it clean and, sort of consolidating what you've got.
Yes, indeed. And to get back to my point, yes, an AX, a legend. I don't know if I'm being sarcastic or not, Andrew, to be honest. I can never tell with you in the live chat. But, 3 races, I was awful at it at the time. It was on a dirt ring, more or less. And I'm pretty sure I broke the gearbox. No, genuine, fair enough.
He forgot the T.
Anti-hatches are my jam. Yeah, it was a great little race car, to be fair. It was fun while I did it, but I think personally my heart was in a different place at the time, and So I gave up too easily. But going back to that point, sim racing was what kept my passion for racing alive. It was accessible, it was affordable, it was there, it was, you know, able to keep me in it, and it's probably what has actually led me to be talking to all of you adoring fans in both the TSRC and the JP broadcasting channel, are watching right now and listening to myself and Zach prattle on about race cars. My only other experience in a race car, of course, was actually a go-kart, which is a race car, despite its simplicity, fairly recently, and that was a lot of fun. Actually, it was the first time I've been like properly karting, and I was fully immersed. I love just how solitary the hobby is, and it's just, once you're out on track, you're not thinking about anything else. It's great.
Yeah, it is fun. I wish that, you know, I had millions and millions of pounds and could just doss about doing whatever I like with it. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And yeah, it's very tough to go racing. Obviously, I have a 1.9 TDI PD130 Mark IV Golf, which obviously cost me an arm and a leg insurance. I've got a black box, but oh my goodness me, would I love to take that car around a track. Like, honestly, the car, every time I get into it, I put my foot down a couple of times, and the thing goes, right? So I'd love to just take that around the track. Obviously, the thing's falling apart, effectively. The car's older than me, which I know obviously isn't hard, but yeah, there's obviously the front left wing is hung on by duct tape. It's a massive dent near the fuel cap. There's a lot wrong with it, but I'd still love to just let her loose as such. Also, that BMW that I drove today as well. Oh my goodness me, yeah, absolutely would love to take that around the track as well. But yeah, just real racing is a sensation that you can never get anywhere else. You know, people chase adrenaline. People are adrenaline junkies. There's not really much else that can do it for you other than, you know, nearly dying, going around in some oddly shaped circles.
Yeah, you know what? I think outside of, you know, sim racing or behind the wheel of a go-kart or a stripped out Citroen AX, or on a road, the only other places I've felt that same sort of adrenaline perhaps is on a roller coaster, which isn't too difficult to feel, and well, when I flew to Canada, when the plane took off, there was the biggest grin on my face. I was loving it.
Wow. I mean, fair enough, but those are things that you aren't in control of, which makes
Still
me more.
great.
It makes me more scared than anything. I've got to be honest. I mean, I know the control of driving a car is a false sense of security because, yeah, you're in control, but you're not in control. Like, so many things that can go wrong. Tires blow up, someone crashes into you, just something blows up. That's all out of your control. But you have the illusion that you're in control. You can turn the wheel, do the pedals, blah, blah, blah. On a roller coaster and on a plane, you're completely reliant on someone else to make sure that you don't die. And yeah, I've never really liked roller coasters much. I've only ever been on a plane 4 times, and that was all for one holiday. So yeah, it's just meh. Yeah, exactly what Andrew Pike just said. I convinced myself that a qualified, skilled pilot that probably spent 20 grand training to be a pilot is an idiot, and I'd be better off doing it myself. Who drives the roller coaster? Whoever sits in the front.
I'd imagine the underpaid, probably 18-year-old who pushes some buttons, right? That's probably it.
Oh, I've also seen Too Much Final Destination, and a roller coaster and a plane crash are prominent features of those films. So that also has played into my fear. But then again, so is a NASCAR crash. So yeah,
Just had a tea delivered to me in the final
beautiful.
4 minutes and 25 seconds. I do love it when the tea is brought straight to me rather than having to go and get it. But Aligna has been working tirelessly to close up this gap to Komchik, and he's not got long to do it. I'd imagine we've probably got 2 more laps at best, as we're about halfway through the current lap that we are on. So this is going to be think tea at this hour, lunatic. Well, the thing is, Andrew, there is a strict regimen in my house, which my mum likes to stick to. Is that there's tea at 7, there's tea at 9, there's tea at 11, there's tea at lunchtime, which is at 1 o'clock. There's tea at 3 o'clock. There's tea at 7 o'clock, and the final cup of tea of the day is at 9. So, you know, I'm not complaining. Who doesn't love a cup of tea?
Mate, honestly, our coffee machine at work is broken, so our boss and his infinite generosity got us loads of mugs, tea, coffee, hot chocolate, sugar, milk, blah, blah, blah. And I've not stopped drinking tea at work. It is just a godsend.
Who loves a cup of tea, handsome? Do you not love a cup of tea?
Grow up.
What is that? A cup of tea solves every problem. Every problem.
Apart from, I don't know.
Apart from Zach's colourblindness.
Well, yeah.
Probably won't solve that.
Well,
But
yeah.
either way, Eligna closing in. He's realistically got perhaps 4 more chances at this at best, really. This is possibly one of them, not going to do it. Meanwhile, Urison and Wright has closed in on the BMW. He's 3/10 now. He's chasing after that lead. Elias Troyer, actually, is nowhere to be seen. I think he's out of the race. I can't see him on that timing table there. So something's happened to the Porsche while we've been chatting along and talking with Handsome Stewart and Andrew Pike in the chat there. But that is a shame for him. That's going to put Glanowski back onto the podium as we go. But Wright closing in. Ligner closing in. The pros and the silvers both being hounded, those leaders are, as we get into these closing stages of the race. We've definitely got one more lap after this one, I think. You've got our current leaders who are... Oh, I think Ligner's made a mistake, Zach. I'm looking at the track map right now, and the gap is huge.
Yeah, so there he is. Oh, that's a mistake. That's going... That's over the crest initially. I knew we'd get it in somewhere. Love it. Obviously, the good old H2O just add water cannot go wrong. But yeah, that is firmly a Noru from us. And yeah, I'm sure Dominic Ligner will be screaming out. I hope he hasn't got any close people called Emma that he could blame, because that would be even worse. But yeah, not fun for him. And effectively hands Konchik the win to take the lead in the overall championship, provided he keeps it nice and clean for the final lap.
Yeah, Ben Nigler, he's been absolutely on the limit throughout the whole time there, and it has finally come to bite him, letting a little bit too over the curbs as they go. Here comes James Wright, though, all over the back of the BMW, trying to find a way through. The speed is tremendous as they come down from this along this straight. Still, the BMW holds firm as they continue on. The last lap is this one, as the timer is going to tick down as we go through.
Oh, Reese, I'm a mature, professional, award-winning commentator, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely. I can't keep myself together, unfortunately. Hans Konchik is the Archduke of Poland, I think. I don't think they have a monarchy. I don't know. Anyway, here's a fight for the lead, by the way, on the final lap. Jeremy Urison under pressure from James Wright in the McLaren, who is going to pull out to the left-hand side, going into Griffin's bend. That's the long way round. Very difficult thing to do. So the BMW understandably defends and deters the McLaren from making a last lap lunge. Yeah,
holds on that inside line, makes it harder for Wright to find a way around the outside. Doesn't go for it. Isn't able to go for it, I mean, as we go along. The timer is now done, so this is the final time for James Wright to try and snatch that win away from Urison in the silvers. Can he do it? Can it be the McLaren instead of the BMW on top? There's a Porsche. Will it get involved in the fight? Oh, it's contact as the Porsche doesn't quite get out of the way. That's going to slow down the BMW of Urison that little bit, but here is our leader, Konchik. He made a smart choice at the pit stops to go first, and he got the undercut. Maybe Ligna a little bit deterred by the Porsche, but it's not going to matter as Konchik wins round number 5 of season 7. Ligna, after a spin and a tangle with a Porsche during his push lap, going to come home in second. It goes the way of Konchik, the advantage in the Pro Championship. But here we go, one more chance for James Wright to make his way up into the lead. A fight all the way down to the checkered flag for these two, and the BMW is making himself as wide as possible. Not difficult in such a bulky car as the BMW is. One more corner. Will James Wright send it down the inside? I don't think so. He's not close enough for any shenanigans like that, and it's going to be Urison who crosses the line, the winner of the silvers, with James Wright not too far behind.
What a race all the way down to the end. There's Glanovsky a little bit later to cross the line. Of course, P3 in the silvers, P6 overall. Konchik, though, a huge race for him, taking the lead both in, or extending the lead in the Pro Championship, extending it in the overall, and yeah, looking very, very strong into the final round, obviously in a week's time. So Konchik taking the fight to the already seasoned veteran of Dominic Legner, who's had a lot to prove this season. It goes down to the wire.
Yes, it does, and well, not a bad race at all. I mean, with Mount Panorama, you got a fantastic venue for some great racing, and we started with 17 cars on the grid, Zach. We end with 11. Not many drivers saw the end of Mount Panorama here at the Bathurst circuit, and I'm not surprised. Really, it's such a challenge. It's such a grind for these drivers, and I'm sure that they're all glad that it's over in some way, shape, or form. Let us run through the grid then for the final time this evening. Your winner, Damian Konchik, on top, was able to keep his focus, keep it cool, where Dominic Ligna, he faltered that one time, and that has cost him in this fight towards the end. But one more race between those two could see this done. Then there's Hislop rounding off the podium for the pros and the podium overall as well. Then Urison, Wright, and Glanovsky make up your podium for the silvers. Then we have Raya Almonte there in P7 and 8. Then there's Zampieri, your winner in the AMS. Powell is in P10, rounding off the top 10. Then there's Gameo, P2 in the AMS. And there's Elias Troyer, who didn't finish the race, and Cisco and Bandera and Nieto and Blanchett and Gramovsky joining him as the victims of first.
Very fun race indeed. Looking forward even more so to our season finale already. 6 weeks is not enough. We need more. But yeah, we take to the Nürburgring for the final round, February 29th, of course. It's a leap year. So the mythical date is back, and we get to enjoy some good old TSRC action for, of course, the final round already of season 7.
Yeah, it's gone quickly, hasn't it? You know, it's almost like the month of February, really. That's gone very quickly as well. Even though there's an extra day this year.
Yeah. And yeah, well, I mean, yeah. I mean, time does go quickly. But it's not necessarily a bad thing, you know. Finishing quick is, you know, it has its perks sometimes. But yeah, the year already, we're already into the 3rd month of the year, which is not great.
Oh dear. Andrew Pike's got some ammo on you there. I think you'll clock on to what you just said there.
No. I know full well what I just said. I was more gauging the reaction as to how mature the audience was / my co-commentator. No, that's fine. Yeah. As the youngest here, I'm clearly the most mature. Awesome. Nice to know. Anyway, we'll see back in a week's time.
Yes, indeed. That is it then this evening for round number 5, season 7 of the TSRC PC GT3 Series. I've been Kelsey Gill. It's been Zach Sweeney alongside me as well, and Kieran Sharp on cams. Join us again for the finale at the same time next week at the Nürburgring, where we once again see Ligna and Konchik fight it out for the final time to see who will take home the championship. But for now, folks, it is a very, very warm good night.